Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
Great. Maya, if you could let us know when the Facebook Live room is available and online, and then, it's 9 o'clock, I think we can get started. People will trickle in as they trickle in. Great. We are live on Facebook. All right. Good morning, everyone. It is September 26, 2025. I was going to say 26. In beautiful Honolulu. It's our Friday. Happy Aloha Friday. Welcome to the City of Honolulu Climate Change Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. Maya, could you do roll call, please?
Chair Islam,
Present.
Vice Chair Otsuka, I didn't
I'm
hear
sorry,
present. but I know you're
present.
present.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Romine,
Present.
Commissioner Olson,
Maya, she's absent.
absent, and Commissioner Ma.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, you have quorum.
Great. Thank you, Maya. Okay, we're going to roll right into our agenda. We have a lot of things that we'd like to discuss today amongst the commission and with the community. So I'm going to move to agenda item number 3, which is approval of our minutes from July 25, 2025 and August 4th, 2025. The commissioners, those minutes were included in your board packet. Let's start with July 25, 2025. Any comments or revisions to the minutes? All right. Seeing and hearing none, I also think they look fine. Could I get a motion?
I make the motion to approve the July 25th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Ma. Is there a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Romine. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion carries. The meeting minutes from July 2025 are approved. Okay, our August 4th, 2025 minutes. Any comments or revisions from the commission? Great. Seeing and hearing none, may I get a motion?
I'll motion to approve the August 4th meeting minutes.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Otsuka. Is there a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Romine. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Great. Motion carries. The meeting minutes from August 4th, 2025 are approved. Thank you, commissioners, for an expedient passing of item number 3. We are now going to move on to item number 4, which are reports from the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. I'd like to welcome Director Sullivan.
Thank you, Chair Islam and commissioners. Happy to be here on this beautiful Aloha Friday. I have a brief report today. I know you have a lot of important business, so just going to touch on a few things really quickly. The first one, and thankfully these 2 individuals are online. We have 2 new GROW fellows in our office, and they started just recently and are going to contribute for the next 2 years to the mission of the office, aligning with the hazards team and with the adaptation team. And so we're really, really grateful for their contributions. And I think it's been about 3 or 4 weeks since they came on board. And I'd love for them to come off camera if they're willing and just say hi real quick to the commissioners. Really, really can't say enough that the GROW program has been great for us. We obviously had 2 previous GROW fellows who were one has already left her service and the other is just finishing up. And so we also very much appreciate those folks, Claire Rossi de Leon and Madeline Kruger. So maybe if you guys want to just give a quick hi, that'd be awesome.
We're sitting next to each other. Hi, I'm Maddie McKenna, the new adaptation fellow. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm the new hazard mitigation fellow. Excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you both. Looking forward to seeing great things come out of those teams and your contributions to that. And again, we can't thank Sea Grant enough for this program. It really adds a lot of value to our office, and we love the people that come in and work with us. Next item is actually a couple of different actions that I wanted to report on from City Council. I believe the way I listed them in order was, yes, 25-204, which thank you to the commission, because I think previously, maybe back in July, the commission had taken action endorsing our the original resolution we introduced. And so we were able to see passage of 25-204 on September 3rd from the council. And it included a lot of what we proposed originally. It included some changes and modifications. And we are now in the process of working very hard to get those dollars out into those projects and work through the procurements and other arrangements to make those happen. Notably, there were a couple of additions that council put in that were unanticipated but welcome, as long as we can make the time to get them out the door. One was $1 million for residential retrofits, and so that's a very exciting addition. And then another one was $625,000 to focus on cesspool conversions, and so that was also a really welcome addition. The process is a new one for us. We're working very hard to get these projects out, and obviously in cases where they require partnerships, there's even a little extra there to do. We've already had some really encouraging conversations with the Department of Health. We're also engaged with the PUC and with Waste Energy Office and the Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority on the retrofit side, and so we're hopeful that we can realize some very, very exciting results from that. I'm happy to answer any questions once I'm done with the report, but I'm just going to keep rolling through these items. The next one is a resolution, and where's my copy of that? 25-202, which really, as a resolution, it's non-binding, but it's certainly valid guidance from council that actually was the reason I wanted to talk about it is because it really took to heart and put into consideration some of the guidance that the commission had already provided. So this resolution asks the State Mitigation and Adaptation Commission to collaborate with our office on consideration for cooling centers around the island. And so our office and the adaptation team has really done some great work on extreme heat, as you all know. And one of the components of that is considering what would it look like to help support community-based cooling centers. And so we've had some discussions internally about what that would look like, and we're excited for the opportunity to have that same discussion with the CCMAC, the Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission. I have requested that be on the agenda for the October meeting, and we'll see where we go with that. But again, it's appreciated. It really recognized the urban heat guidance that this commission provided recently, and we value that contribution. And I think it's a good reference point to see your work being picked up by other bodies and utilized to push these efforts forward. So I had a couple other items on my reports, but I'm actually going to truncate that. So we have lots of ongoing engagements. We just had one with the SWWAG, the Stormwater Wastewater Advisory Group, and we're able to give a presentation on One Water. We have some upcoming presentations as well, but I'm gonna kind of skip over that because recognizing that you have a really full agenda and a lot to cover today. And then I did put just a brief update for One Water Honolulu, and really that is that there's an effort from the One Water panel, to which CCSR belongs, to start really getting more public with this. Dr. Romine actually participated in a meeting with the Technical Advisory Committee this week. And in our panel discussion yesterday with the One Water Leadership Group, we really talked about getting out more and starting to really endorse and share a lot of the work that's happening. And so I do want to put it into the court of this commission to consider. We'd be happy to provide a One Water presentation and also pull in some of our colleagues, whether it be from Environmental Services or Board of Water Supply or others, to share more on the One Water plan as it evolves. And it's really exciting work. There's a lot to it. I don't want to take more. That's really my update for today. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. And otherwise, I think I want to let you dive into the important business that you have laid out for today.
Great. Thank you so much, Director Sullivan. Excellent update as well. I'll keep my comments brief. Welcome, Maddie and Matt first. Happy to have you on the team. Look forward to any collaboration we can have with the commission. Ben, thank you so much for the 2 action items. I'm glad the Climate Resiliency Fund moved forward. I am just curious, wearing my architect's hat. This 1 million for residential retrofits, was there any discussion as to how that money would be utilized or definition of what retrofit means? I'm quite curious on that. And then with the cesspool conversion, are those like grant and aids that homeowners apply to, or how does that funding sort of work? You can maybe share whatever you know, that'd be helpful. Brad, Susie, Ben, your mic is muted.
Thank you for the question, Chair. What we understood both from kind of discussion with council members and from the passage of the resolution is, I think throughout the process of adopting 25-204, numerous council members brought up concerns about cesspools. We provided to them our view on the importance of that, and then what criteria we thought were critical for that. So one of the things we shared is that we believe that we need to wait for the Department of Environmental Services to complete their interconnect study, which we expect to come in by next summer. And that's important because it really says which homes may or may not in the future be connected to the sewer system. Another criteria is that we recognize the scale of this problem, and that the scale of this problem far outweighs the scale of our fund. And so we want to use this to really look at priority 1 cesspools as defined by Hawaii Department of Health. A third that is actually a criteria that the council provided was households with a household income of $100,000 or below. So they're really looking at from an income equity standpoint, providing the relief there. And then in our discussions with Department of Health and with others, it has been noted that the prior program was a $20,000 rebate, and that these things cost $40,000, $50,000. And so having a rebate or having additional funding coming from the city, that would be additive to that. So folks can get further into the process of a retrofit, especially given that the target audience is folks who have lower incomes and may not be able to afford this on their own. So that covers cesspools, and happy to answer more questions. And then with regards to residential retrofits, it's fairly broad and general in terms of what was passed and what we understand. We have been working on a multifamily residence. We took this guidance we think it wants to be, we understand from council's intentions that it could potentially be both single family and multifamily. And then there's reference in the resolution to Climate Ready Oahu Strategies 10.3 and 12.2. And so those reference different like flood mitigation and then hurricane mitigation. And so those are some things that we expect to be important. I should double check and make sure I have it right. Made some notes on this, but I'm not sure where I put them. Anyway, those are referenced in there. And so we see that as implying kind of resilience retrofits. And then what we envision is potentially combining those with some of the numerous funding sources out there for energy retrofits. And then the final thing is they suggested a contract with a nonprofit, which we took to mean connecting to people who have stronger local community connections as a means of implementing a program, as opposed to very often our programs are done by, say, an outside party who is like a for-profit entity, and they have a very regimented way to get the things out, and they don't necessarily always have the same kind of relationships that are advantageous to connect with community partners. And so that's about the sum of what I have on that. We'll continue to share more as it develops. And again, there's some really tight timelines, and so we're not 100% confident we can get all these things executed this year. If any of these projects don't go forward, the funding would roll back into the Climate Resiliency Fund, and we'd have an opportunity to consider again. And then, obviously, we're working hard to have a more efficient process next year. This is the first year we've done this, and so there's some bugs and out internally to streamline the process. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you, Director Sullivan, for the update. Encouraged to hear that news. Commissioner Romine.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Director Sullivan, for those updates. Welcome, Maddie and Matt. Great to meet you, at least online here. Maddie, we got a chance to chat the other day at the university too. So welcome to the Resilience Office team and Sea Grant. Hope we'll get a chance to work together some more. Director Sullivan, you mentioned some of the potential uses of the residential retrofit funds that bill. I didn't hear you mention wildfire mitigation. Maybe that's in the thinking, the discussion, but I hope that could be included in the potential for addressing residential retrofits. You know, I'm thinking particular homes on kind of the wildland urban interface there. And there's, as I understand, I'm not expert in this, but relatively inexpensive retrofits that can be done to mitigate for flying embers and things like that, and maybe brush clearing too. So hope that's within the discussion on that bill. And I'm really excited to hear about the potential building collaboration with the state and CCMAC on cooling centers. And maybe that's on the upcoming agenda at the state commission. I'm just wondering, do you know who would be the lead state agency on that, you know, within CCMAC? Is that a Department of Health? Juliana?
We haven't had any discussions to date on that. So it has been, certainly the office has done some collaboration with Department of Health on extreme heat. So that seems a likely place for it to sit, but the resolution didn't speak to that. And we haven't had a on the record conversation with the CCMAC as of yet. So we don't have any definitive determination as to where that might sit.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to following that progress. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
If I may, Commissioner, so I really appreciate your comment about wildfire. And I think one of the things we're trying to balance this year is what we think is most important is we try to get the funding out. We keep the program simple, but we do include some limited resilience measures. And so whether that be wildfire or say hurricane clips or something like that, we want to keep it very simple because it's, you know, $1 million sounds like a lot of money to you and I on a daily basis, but for a program, not a lot of money, goes quickly. And we want to make sure that we're not asking people to do the world in terms of, you know, a lot of different options on a very small pilot. So that's a consideration, but we're also seeking, you know, matching funds from the state green fee if we're able to. And so that's another leverage point. So really, I think the most important thing is we get this hui of folks working together. We identify a nonprofit and we try to find a way to get them contracted. And then we can always continue to augment the program in future years once we have it set up.
Great. Thank you, Ben. And for all the great work going on in your office. Much appreciated.
Commissioners, any other comments for Director Sullivan or questions? Great. If Commissioner Ma, did you want to say anything? Sorry, I see your hand moving.
Oh, no. Thank you, Chair. No, I had questions about the funding of 1 million, but I think Director Sullivan answered them during his comments. So I really appreciated that. Thank you, Director. And of course, welcome to the Grau Fellows, and excited to have you on board and excited to see your work. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Ma. Okay. So again, thank you, Director Sullivan, for an excellent update. We look forward to hearing more. Let us know how the commission can assist in any way. We are going to move on to agenda item number 5, which is a presentation on the draft climate action plan 2025 to 2030 by our Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. I'd like to welcome Marissa Kunch to give our presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair Islam. I am going to share my screen here. Great. Maybe double checking. Can everyone see the first slide of the climate action plan? Perfect. Thank you. Great. Well, thank you so much. We are so excited to be here presenting on our 2025 to 2030 update to our climate action plan. Really grateful for the opportunity to share kind of how this plan is different than our first climate action plan, and really how our team has come together through a variety of obstacles over the last year, given different federal barriers and some impacts to the funding. So excited to dive in. Today presenting with me is our climate action coordinator, Poliahu Dulay, and then our sustainability data analyst, Victor Limon. So our agenda I'm briefly going to give some background and intros to the Climate Action Plan and some of that funding that I mentioned that's supporting our update. Then I'm going to pass it over to Poliahu, who will be really sharing the story of how community has shaped this plan and some new focus areas that are in this plan compared to the first one. Then I'll pass it to Victor, who will be taking a deep dive into our sector-based emissions and really where we're seeing our carbon emissions. Then I'll wrap it up with our timeline of where we're at today and then some next steps. So our office has many plans and reports detailing the work and efforts to adapt to, prepare for, and mitigate the impacts of climate change. Per ordinance, we are required to update the Climate Action Plan every 5 years. So that's this One Climate, One Oahu plan here in yellow. This marks our second time updating the city's Climate Action Plan. And though our team has really been supporting actions from this first CAP, this is a new team that's supporting the update. So it has really been exciting to be a part of the process and work together as a team to update the work that we'll be doing for the next 5 years. So just a quick background, what is a climate action plan? During this presentation, we'll be referring to it as a CAP mostly. But this is Oahu's roadmap to reducing harmful greenhouse gas emissions while keeping community, equity, and affordability at the core. While it's guided by goals to support 100% renewable energy and supporting clean transportation, this plan, we've really tried to highlight, it's not just about the numbers, but it really is about real community-centered solutions that are supporting equity and well-being. So this plan has been supported by community members, CAP steering committee, and then our core team here at the Resilience Office. So we would not be this far along in the plan unless we had the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant to support our work. It's been a busy year despite the bumps, but we were awarded the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant in 2023. It required a two-part grant deliverable. The first part was a priority climate action plan, which we submitted in 2024. It outlines just 10 actions that we deemed as priority. And then our second deliverable is the CCAP, the comprehensive CAP, which we're working on today and really presenting on today. And it's fully detailing all of the actions and strategies that the city will be taking to reduce greenhouse gas emissions on island. So this is what we've been working on for the last year and submitting our final to the EPA in December of 2025. Our timeline, so despite the bumps from earlier this year, we have been able to stick to our timeline. Over the last year, we have involved different intergovernment departments. We've hosted workshops to help review back what actions were completed from the first plan, which actions need to be rolled over into this plan, identify barriers of what's working, what's not working. So we've been really getting closer to our fellow sister departments in the city. And then in parallel, we've had a climate action plan steering committee. So that's different, not just community-based organizations, but different experts in the field who have been helping to guide and provide valuable input to the plan over the last year. Also in parallel, we've hosted community workshops and we've really been doing a lot of tabling events, going to community-based organizations to talk story and share where we're at with the CAP and kind of get feedback on what actions they see as priority for this plan too. We submitted our drafts in July to the EPA, so now we're really kind of just nearing the finish here with finalizing our drafts and then looking to submit in December. At the core of this plan of who's been involved, the city's resilience office has been leading this plan with the support of city departments. We've been supported by a consultant, an awesome consultant, Huanani Partners, 9 CAP committee members, several community-based organizations, and lots of frontline community engagement. And then really just keeping community at the core and center of all of the work that we do. So that's brief background. I'm excited to hand it off to Poliahu to share a little bit more of the story of how community has been involved at the center and how this plan has shifted a little bit since the first plan. So Poliahu, I'll pass it to you.
Marissa, can you go back one slide? Okay, so just kind of before I jump right in, I just wanted to say that for this project, it's kind of been, so it's been 5 completely different pieces and strands moving all on its own. And so first I want to thank the team, the Resilience Oahu CAP team, who's been amazing at kind of leading this 5 different strand project, ensuring that we're twisting and weaving everything together to get to where we are today. So these are 4, yes, but there's actually 5. Okay, so for this project, we kicked off January 2020 of this year. We began in Kalihiuka, where we gathered to share space and food and energy with each other to root this whole project and process in relationships on Oahu, in Kalihi, and really coming in as humans, kind of releasing and letting go our positions, our titles, and even our kuleana at home, just to ensure that there was some kind of relationships, because in order for this project to get to where it is today, it's really been all about relationships, relationships with each other, relationships with the community, and relationships with Oahu. Next slide. So really what makes this plan unique is not just the 27 actions, but it was the way that it was created. And its strength rests kind of in these foundations, and the foundations that are our values and our principles. And so our values here are transparency, accountability, inclusivity, adaptability, collaboration, and education. Kind of these values are very present in everything that we've done and how we've done it, from how we communicate with each other, from the words that were used in meetings, from the words that were written in the draft plan itself, as well as how we're communicating constantly, especially with the community. So that's the values. In addition to our values, we go back, sorry. We also work our principles, which are, as Marissa already shared, this plan is very much community-centered, not just with the amazing help and support from our CAP committee, but also from the community-based organizations, and as well as the community who's been open to sharing with us and teaching us. She already shared a little bit more. She already shared how equity and justice is kind of embedded throughout, cultural integrity and indigenous knowledge, just from the 5 different strands, and weaving it together, that in every piece, in every part possible, the collaboration, and then again, transparency and accountability is probably the values that we come back to constantly in everything. And that's how we worked. Sorry, next slide. So from the start, the CAP was built through community partnership. And engagement, as you can see here, the way that we approach engagement was the goal was to go all over Oahu if possible. So you'll notice over here on that there's a map of Oahu with all of those kind of markers. So these markers visually show where we've been, right? So we did tabling, we've done workshops, we got to sit with kupuna, you'll see up there. One of the kupuna ladies is stamping on a bag. We were invited to school, so we got to work with kids. But in addition to that, I did also want to include and feature our team here on the bottom. I think a big part of engagement is ensuring that us as a team that's kind of leading and representing not just CCSR, not just the city, but we do have, we are honored and grateful to also be representing our communities. So I did want to show that here. And then also not pictured is something I want to thank Ben for, because he reminded me early on that even our city departments, our interdepartmental group, they are also community. So it was really awesome to kind of lump engagement with everybody involved as our community conversations. Next slide. So this plan, as you can tell from the timeline that Marissa already shared, this plan, although kicked off in January, with the help of the evaluation period, as well as the ongoing engagement, we took everything that we heard from everybody, from the community, from our steering committee, from our interdepartmental conversations, as well as from internal conversations. And we took that and these are some kind of things that we've learned, that we've heard from the community, just affordability and access matter most, transportation. There's a need for safe, reliable, and equitable transportation across Oahu. Climate actions should respect culture and place. Food systems, and I'm going to get a little bit more into that later, are central to resilience and central to this place. And then trust comes from transparency and follow through, which is why I'm so grateful that Emily, our CCSR's equity manager, has been really awesome in leading us to conducting funnel kind of engagement, which is super important in the work that we do. And how we learned and how we've kind of integrated what we've heard into this project is kind of in presentations, in how things are written, whether it's from the things that we're sharing when we're doing engagement to the plan itself. We opted the letters versus numbers. We opted to, you'll notice when you're looking through the actions that they're identified with alphabets instead of numbers. And a big part of that is we do feel that all the actions are important. And so we wanted to omit the numbers because that could unintentionally kind of prioritize one action over the other. And as you go through, if you haven't already, to review the actions themselves, you're going to notice that some actions are very much department heavy and others are more community heavy. So we wanted to kind of ensure equity in that space as well. Also learning from our engagement was communication and relationships has been super important. From how we're communicating both in correspondence, both orally, even how we're facilitating something as small as reminding Ben when he attends our community workshop, Ben, we don't need to say our titles, let's just put our names, right? Just understanding that these relationships are very important and pivotal in getting this project to be community-led. In addition, we did knowledge sharing and decision making, right, with the support of our CAP steering committee as our leading kind of group and authority. And then a lot of our processes and procedures we've had to kind of make it up as we go and approach things differently. And I'm sure other agencies are, especially with the climate on the federal level and other obstacles, we've really had to be creative in how we're doing things, because it's not just in talking and communicating with the community, but really embracing those opportunities to be better better community servants, and that also includes procedural procedural innovation. So this plan is, sorry, this CAP, the CAP outlines 27 climate actions across 5 interconnected focus areas. The first, you'll notice here that there are 2 focus areas that are brand new: sustainable communities and food systems. Our sustainable communities, it looks at reimagining land use, housing, and parking with community gathering spaces, street designs, and affordable walkable neighborhoods. Food systems as central, we've heard from the community, is central in resilience. It's central in sustaining our communities on a whole, on all levels. So we're super excited about the addition of those focus areas. And then we have transportation, which focuses on safe street designs, safer for Keiki and Kupuna, community energy solutions, which again, really the intent of these actions to reduce municipal and community energy costs while moving towards clean energy. And then finally, there's waste. And those actions are intended to advance to zero waste and reduce reliance on H-Power and landfills, and kind of elevate recycling and composting, at least on a city department level. Okay, I'm gonna pass it over to Victor.
Aloha everyone, can you guys hear me? So thank you Poliahu and Marissa for setting the stage so perfectly. So for the technical side of the work that we did, it was very important for us to ground the numbers with a clear sense of why they're important specifically for the community, especially because we're doing the process of updating the CAP in a slightly different way. Rather than like coming up with the numbers first and then like consulting with the community, both parts of the work are happening simultaneously. So it's important that the process is iterative and engaged with different stakeholders. But basically, we just wanted to gain a better and more detailed understanding of our island's carbon footprint. So in addition to the community-wide geography-based greenhouse gas inventories that we already do have and update every year, we also, for this update, built a consumption-based emissions inventory and a municipal inventory as well. We then projected future emissions based on these baselines and then modeled pathways based on the climate actions that came out of our community engagement and interdepartmental workshops. As I was saying earlier, we approached this modeling through an iterative process, which was necessary because the modeling occurred at the same time as the climate actions were being shaped and finalized. But also because this information could be used in the decision-making by community representatives in the CAP committee, as well as different city agency representatives in really shaping what the climate actions should look like and how they should be implemented. Next slide, please. So if you look at the consumption-based emissions inventory, one of the major takeaways is that household consumption really drives the majority of emissions, or 72.4% of all the emissions on the island. We interpret this with a bit of caution, however, because the consumption-based approach is based on data that's biased towards allocating emissions towards families and individuals as quote-unquote final consumers, even though, of course, the way that the goods and services are sourced, manufactured, and transported are really often decided by not the households themselves, but businesses and governments. So for us, what this just means is that patterns of household consumption do reveal major opportunities for greenhouse gas reduction for the entire island as a whole. Next slide, please. So not surprisingly, within household emissions by consumption category, transportation has the largest share. And but what's interesting to note here is that food, housing, and services all have comparable percentage shares of 16 to 18%. So they're roughly the same shares, all of these like 3 other big components or consumption categories. Next slide, please. If we take a look at consumption subcategories still within household emissions, we see gasoline consumption, electricity, and healthcare as the top 3 highest shares in household emissions. Consumption and electricity, it's sort of, we already know that. Healthcare actually has a lot of embodied emissions just because it's energy intensive. So hospitals, healthcare facilities, pharmaceutical services, those require a lot of energy. So that's why it's in the top 3. In terms of just food consumption, unsurprisingly, consumption of meats, fish, and dairy products is the highest emitter. Next slide, please. Just within the municipal slice of our greenhouse gas inventories, on-site fuel use, so stationary combustion, like the bar on the far left, that's on-site fuel use, electricity use, and vehicle fuel use, which is mobile combustion. These are the highest emitters. Under standard protocol of how inventories are done, so-called biogenic emissions from municipal solid waste combustion are reported separately. So that's the bar on the far right. So biogenic emissions are emissions from burning organic material, which would otherwise also release emissions through decay. It's usually separate, but we include it in here because we think it's still part of like our footprint and we should take that into account. Next slide, please. So in summary, like in terms of like our emissions footprint, we do know that transportation and energy use are really the top drivers of household emissions. So there's a real opportunity there. But what's also interesting, and this is actually why we made food systems like a new focus area, is because we've seen that emissions from food consumption is also a major contributor to household emissions, but it has so far received less attention relative to other climate action areas such as housing, like building, energy efficiency, and transportation. So it's an opportunity, and this climate action plan optimizes that opportunity by having a food systems focus area. But also waste diversion is also a huge opportunity for emissions reduction, and this is in perfect alignment with the city's commitment to divert 95% of the island's waste. And we're very thankful for the Department of Environmental Services to be very involved in our interdepartmental workshops, which really helped us in leveraging this opportunity. Because when we divert waste from the landfills and H-Power, then we bring down fuel use in incinerators, because we do use a lot of diesel to burn our waste, and it's also it will also lead to reduction of food waste. So not just the non-biogenic emissions, but also like the biogenic emissions, like the organic material, which not only has benefits in reducing emissions, but in general with cost savings and other benefits as well to the community. So next slide. So to model the individual and collective impact of the 27 actions that came out of our community engagement and interdepartmental workshops, we modeled the reduction estimates per action. Unfortunately, we weren't able to actually model 3 food systems actions, but all the estimates you can find in section 5 of the draft cap, and the appendices would give you more information about the methodologies that we used to come up with those estimates. Now, this chart just aggregates the reductions by focus area, and it shows that actions in sustainable communities as having the largest reduction potentials in both the short-term and long-term perspective. And this is due to the boldness and effectiveness of the building energy code updates in particular, and the way it scales in the long term. So if next slide, please. So if we take them all together, and let's say no actions are going to be taken by the state and federal actors, the actions in this cap update alone would cut more than 1/3 of emissions from baseline estimates. Although military operations is obviously outside city jurisdiction, their emissions we include them in both the city and state GHG inventories. So we also modeled the reductions from climate actions that the Army, Navy, and Air Force have officially adopted. because we also don't want to overcompensate for things that they've already committed to reducing. So next slide, please. But more likely, we do know that state and federal policy changes are going to happen, maybe in a slightly less scale because of the current administration, but we do know that there are some state and federally policy changes that are already underway. So if we take those into consideration, this climate action plan will reduce emissions by more than a half, closer to our target. Again, with actions in sustainable communities, but also transportation driving thicker wedges into our carbon footprint in the final decade of this time series, or after 2040. So after that time period, towards the latter end of this time series, we'll see actions in these focus areas as having larger impacts in the long term. Next slide, please. So in general, one of our key takeaways, however, is that, so this is importantly, the modeling, just to give us an idea of like how impactful this climate action plan would be for both the implementing agencies, the commission, other stakeholders, as well as the community, to see really what the impact of this would be. But one of our key takeaways also is that we need more and better data to just more accurately estimate the variable impacts of as many possible actions at our disposal. Because if we're not able to demonstrate the effectivity of each accurately, then that will impact our decision making in prioritization, right? So as you can see, the food wedge in the scenario modeling is hardly perceptible, but that's not actually representative of the impact of the food systems. We just don't have enough data available yet to confidently predict potential emission reductions for those actions. But for those actions without an estimate, we laid down a narrative description of how we know these actions will lead to not only emission reductions, but also community benefits and savings. Because this is a climate action plan, so we did provide like why we think these are important climate actions and what the impacts would be. But what we did reaffirm with full confidence, despite the limitations of the data and the scope and whatever other obstacles, is that we know that without taking action, families on Oahu will continue to be at risk of worsening health outcomes, rising costs, and environmental disruption due to climate change. And we also did find out that although this climate action plan is important, necessary, and urgent, we know it's not enough to single-handedly achieve our goals. But if we pursue strategies with bolder targets and align our efforts with certain favorable external policies and environments, we can get much closer to where we want to be. So yeah, I know there's still a lot of stuff we haven't covered, but I'll pass it on over to Marissa to wrap us up, or Poliaho, or whoever.
That was perfect. Thanks, Victor. So what's next? We have just completed our public comment period for the drafts that we published. What we asked community was what feels right, what's missing, and what's unclear. So over the last 2 weeks, we've been going through all of those public comments and responding directly to each comment. Poliahu has been awesome in giving really strong responses to each community member, helping them feel valued with their contributions to the plan, because we are grateful for all the comments that we are receiving in the plan. We're looking forward to the commission comment period. And then upcoming, we are tentatively on schedule for the City Council Committee on Energy, Environment, and Sustainability for October 14th. So that'll be another opportunity for us to present the plan and then get feedback from council members and then any public testimony. So our last slide here. Overall, we're just so grateful to all the community members who have been involved and really just given their time and their voice to this plan. All the city departments who also have given their time and voice and very honest feedback to the plan. And then, of course, to our very awesome team led by Poliahu here, who has just really been the backbone of the project. So I think here we can pause and take questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Marissa, Poliahu, and Victor. What an excellent presentation and just all the work and dedication that you guys have put into this draft CAP plan. I'll keep my comments brief, but I appreciate you, the team, providing a comment period for the commission to provide some comments and thought on the draft CAP plan. But what I appreciate the most is actually the attention to weaving in community and really kind of transparent and honest engagement. You know, I think that affordability and access is a really important thing. And I also appreciate that the topic of food resiliency and security emerged and how that sort of parallels with the conversation of waste reduction. We're missing sort of that conversation of what does circular economy look for our state, you know, particularly as an island community. So I'm really hopeful that the action plans will, you know, make efforts to sort of start to begin this conversation and look at opportunities in our place here. So I look forward to providing you guys comments during this comment period as I can dive in further into your measures, your action plans, and provide more thoughtful response. But I'm going to turn it over to my commissioners. Any comments from the team? Feel free to raise your hand and unmute. Commissioner Ma.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your work. That was fascinating, the data part especially. I just have a couple of comments or questions. I understand that you're submitting to the EPA in December of this year. Any thoughts on the reception that you may receive with this plan, heavy on equity at the EPA, if you could share?
I think we're super grateful to have an amazing and supportive EPA representative who has been we've been working closely with. So she is I think it'll be okay. We've already kind of submitted a preliminary draft. And we're ensuring that even the language, how we're presenting everything in the plan itself, she is well aware of it. So we're not expecting any kind of negative response from the EPA because Hawaii is not the only state that has opted to kind of maintain this approach to climate action planning.
Thank you. I have other questions, but I'm happy to let other commissioners. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Ma. Any other commissioners like to offer comments or questions to the team? Commissioner Romine.
Thank you, Chair. Mahalo, Poliahu, Marissa, Victor, for obviously the ton of work that went into this. This is obviously a huge undertaking. So thank you for this very important effort and the informative presentation. Most of my work's on the adaptation side, so I always learn a ton from presentations like this, more on the mitigation, greenhouse gas mitigation side. It's a lengthy report. I have to admit, I haven't gotten through the entire thing yet. I'm still working through it. It did appear to me there's a lot of focus on electrification of transportation for good reason. I haven't spotted much focus on alternative clean fuels development in this plan. Is that maybe I missed something? Maybe that's more, you see that more of as a state responsibility, but I'm thinking more of like the heavy vehicle sector, air transportation as well. Could you maybe just fill us in a little bit more on your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Great question. I think, Chris, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, just to provide a little bit more context, in parallel to developing this plan, the Hawaii Department of Transportation, who has jurisdiction of our airports and harbors, were creating their energy reduction and or Energy Security and Waste Reduction Plan. It's their CCAP equivalent. They're having a heavy focus, and I think they're planning to introduce legislation on sustainable clean fuels. So in the last legislative session, it kind of stalled, but they do plan to reintroduce that. Our office has been supportive of that plan, and the actions within this plan was mainly focused on things within DTS, our Department of Transportation Services jurisdiction. So mainly focusing on the infrastructure design and the transit services that the city provides. Electrification is one of the biggest ways that we currently are operating and trying to reduce our transportation related emissions, but we're supportive of what HDOT is planning, and we do see the difficulty of reducing our emissions for both the medium and heavy duty sector. Right now, the market is really focused on that light duty vehicles, but we'll see what comes out of the next state ledge session.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Vice Chair Osuga?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to quickly add that I had the privilege of being part of the CAP committee, so I've gotten to be a little bit more involved in the process throughout. And I just want to thank the CCSR team, particularly Poliahu, for your team's really thoughtful approach. So I got to be a little bit more integrated into kind of the more everyday stuff. And I really enjoyed being part of the process and being able to provide feedback throughout. So I just want to say thank you and great job. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Osuga. Public that's in our meeting, any comments for the team? If you have any comments, just a reminder that we have a 3-minute limit. So feel free to raise your hand. Great. Nancy, thank you.
Hi. Aloha. Really, I love this. I'm really impressed by the methodology you're using for community engagement and the values and the principles that you're centering community, and everything comes from there, from those strength of those relationships. So, and also bridging the gap between government and community is just so important. So just wanted to really compliment you folks on job well done, and excited to review this draft.
Here we have a comment from the in-person meeting location.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Maya. Would you like to read the
Hi,
comment
this
or
is
have that
Dr.
individual?
Lee from the
Okay.
Hi, this is Dr. Lee from the Hawaii Climate Change and Health Working Group. I wanted to ask about where could receive more information on the technical aspects of decarbonization from the healthcare sector, which was rightly identified to take up 8 to 10% or contribute 8 to 10% of our state's overall pollution. From my personal perspective, I'm the lead for the nationwide American Psychiatric Association's effort to decarbonize psychiatry, and for the Hawaii Psychiatric Medical Association's efforts in that space. So just wanted to kind of connect with the technical aspect of decarbonization for the healthcare sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee, for your comment. Marissa, Poliahu, or Victor, would you like to maybe address Dr. Lee's comment?
Yeah, sure. It seems like it's a question for me, but I didn't quite. I think there's something wrong with my speaker. But could anybody repeat the question for me?
I can support Victor. He's looking for more data supporting the healthcare emissions. If we have any like deeper dive of data that maybe we can share.
Oh yes, definitely. So we have lengthy appendices actually in the draft. I know it's such a bore to read all of them, but in Appendix A or C or both, actually we do have methodologies laid out on where healthcare emissions are coming from. We also plan to, in support of our advocacy for transparency, we're also planning to release like the data sets that we use so that it's reproducible for other researchers. So yes, we do have those information available or will be available for the public.
Great, thank you, Victor. Maya, are there any other comments in the room or on Facebook Live?
No other comments.
Great, thank you, Maya. Any other comments on our virtual room? Okay, well, thank you again, Marissa, Poliahu, and Victor for an excellent presentation. You're all really excited to dive deeper into this and to provide our comments. And we just want to say again, thank you again for providing the commission a formal comment period. It's very much appreciated. So thank you again. We are going to move on now to our next agenda item, which is agenda item number 6. Everyone should have received, the community included, our draft letter to the draft climate action plan, along with some of our draft comments. We have been provided some guidance ahead of this meeting and reminder of Sunshine Law. And so understanding that, the CAP plan is quite detailed and that the commission was only able to provide partial comments. We are only going to review what is presented, and commissioners were certainly able to have more discussion, but the action to formalize our comments will have to take place at our next scheduled commission meeting in an effort to present all of our comments ahead of time to the public. So I'm going to open with our draft letter. I will share my screen so that everyone can see the letter. And so this letter was included. It is really intended as a general cover letter, right, to open up to our comments. And so it discusses really what the charge of the commission is, a summary of our impression and perspective of the CAP, and then points to a more extensive list of detailed comments that we intend to highlight by section. Supported of that are the draft comments, and that is a working Excel file. And in here you see our comments and then particular association to the page number and sections. So I'd like to go back to the draft letter and ask the commission if there are any comments or discussion that we'd like to have to this letter. Okay, and then to the draft comments that were shared with everyone in the board packet. Not to put you on the spot, Vice Chair Osuka, but since you were the amazing commissioner that was able to provide comments ahead of time, is there anything that you'd like to share with the commission and the community about your perspective or the comments that you've noted?
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight comment number 1. The rest are pretty technical, but I think just more broadly, wanted to ask CCSR, it doesn't have to be for this CAP, or it could just be in another city process, but I would really love to see CCSR work with DTS and HDOT to identify what the city and county of Honolulu's portion of our mode shift, but also our vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions commitment is for our ground transportation sector. So I know we're discussing in the next agenda item the energy security and waste reduction plan, but that plan outlines sort of the statewide GHG and BMT reduction goals. So I would love for, and it could be HDOT that facilitates this conversation, but I would love for us to identify, us meaning City and County of Honolulu, to identify what our contributions are or will be to the VMT and GHG reduction goals. And I just highlighted here some examples from the city of Minneapolis, which specifically in their climate action plan sets mode shift goals. So those are goals for how they would like their residents to get around. And their investments in their transportation services and infrastructure is supposed to reflect that. And then our neighbors on Kauai also set their own mode shift goals in their multimodal land transportation plan. So I'd love to see that maybe in a future CAP or in a different city process. I just want to highlight that for consideration of CCSR and the public, that there's precedent for this kind of work. And I would love to see us do it. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Otsuka. Any discussion, commissioners, to what we have presented so far? This is kind of our opportunity to discuss. We'll most likely have the office resend or ask you to send out your comments again, and we'll aggregate them, make them available for our next meeting. But if there's any discussion that we'd like to have ahead of that, we can certainly do that right now.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just say that, yeah, I appreciate the offer. It sounds like we have some more time to provide comment on this. So I appreciate that. I could use it. Do we have a deadline? Maybe I missed that we're working towards then?
Yes, so I saw on the slide that Marissa Puliahu and Victor presented, October 3rd is our comment period. We may need to ask if we could get an extension, because currently right now, I think our next scheduled meeting is a few days after that. But we can certainly discuss if there's opportunities to move our meeting ahead to accommodate that discussion period. So.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ma?
Yes, sorry, Chair. I'm not exactly sure what we're being asked to do with this action item. Are we being asked to, is the letter and the Excel, or so we're asked to authorize the letter and the Excel to enter our comments for the climate action plan?
So that was the initial, thank you, Commissioner Ma. That was the initial intent, but we received guidance about being a little bit more in alignment with Sunshine. And so in respect of that, similar to what we're doing with the DOT comments and to the energy reduction security plan, we need to present all of our comments ahead of time to the community. So this was made obviously ahead of, the schedule was drafted ahead of receiving those comments. So for now, we can comment on the comments that were received by Vice Chair Otsuka and the letter, but we cannot take action until our next meeting in October.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So think of it like a draft opportunity.
Okay. So then we would have to have a separate meeting to basically ratify any additional comments that come in from the other commissioners on the Excel for the climate action plan.
That is my understanding. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
But no problem. Director Sullivan, I saw your hand up.
Thank you. I was actually seeking clarity and just wanted to engage in this discussion about process. Commissioner Ma, you might be able to help us on this with your expertise, but don't feel on the spot. I'm just trying to understand if the commission were to, if all commissioners were to submit their comments to the office and it became part of the board packet, would it then be appropriate to review and finalize those comments in a meeting because they were given to the public in advance of the meeting for consideration, or is that do we feel we need a two-step process from next month?
So if my understanding under Sunshine Law, if the commissioners provided all the comments in the Excel and it was part of the board packet given in advance to the public, and it was noted on the agenda that we were going to be discussing it at an agendized meeting, then we should be able to be fine. Does that answer your question, Director?
It does, Chair. Is that your understanding, or is that conflict?
It's my understanding. So, for example, if all other commissioners decided not to provide comments, we could take action on the comments that are currently presented, right? The letter in its form, and submit that to OCCSR and the CAP team. That is something that's on the table. However, I think we've been provided an opportunity to extend our comment period, right? And be more inclusive of all the commissioners. And so, but just doing that, we would have to either schedule a special meeting to discuss that, or potentially realign our already scheduled meeting to accommodate the comment period. Or ask if the CAP team would allow us an extension to the comment period. So that is my understanding. But Vice Chair Otsuka?
Commissioner Ma, I just wanted to clarify an additional Sunshine Law regulation. So if we all submit comments, and maybe my comment conflicts with Chair Islam's comments, are we able to, at the meeting that we agendize and it's been in the board packet, to then make a change at the meeting and then vote to approve it?
We can discuss it, yes,
Okay.
because it's in the packet. It's
Right.
on the agenda to
Okay.
discuss at the
Okay.
meeting. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, this applies to the next agenda item also. Not quite a conflict, but there were some comments that were a little bit different. And so I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yes, and the public could comment as well. And then we could vote to approve.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Ma, for helping us weave through this sunshine interpretation of things. So commissioners, I am going to assume that we want to comment on the CAP or provide additional comments. And therefore, we are going to take the offer from the CAP team to include our comments in that comment period time. And when we get to the agenda items where we were going to discuss our next commission meeting, we can talk about the timing of our commission meeting in alignment to the CAP comment period. Commissioner Romine.
Chair, thanks. That all sounds good to me. I just don't want our commission to be the factor that's holding up the CAP team's progress on this. So if they can, in
Yes.
fact, offer some more time, I would welcome it. But if they need us to move ahead, just so they can stick their timelines, I would totally understand that too. So I think they can feel free to be frank with us about that. I would appreciate it.
Okay. Marissa, not to put you on the spot, but could you remind us what the comment period is for the commission, and if we have any wiggle room? It is just more to get clarity on how we can proceed forward.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. And I think there may have been internal miscommunication within our office, but we are on a very strict timeline. So I think the October 3rd is really what we're hoping to stick with, just because we do have several more rounds of comment collection from council members, the mayor's office, and prepping for our final draft submittal by December 1st. And I'm so sorry for the time crunch. So my sincerest apologies in advance.
No, thank you, Marissa. Our original intent when we published the agenda was to actually finalize comments today. But we, quite frankly, received just more additional guidance on Sunshine. So we are proceeding with caution at this point, if we are to be inclusive of all commissioner comments. So that's why we're just getting clarity. But Vice Chair Otsuka.
I just wanted to clarify that October 3rd is next Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So unless we agendize an October 3rd meeting today, we will not be able to make CCSR's deadline. So I just want to make folks aware of timing. I'm like, October 3rd, it's next month. I'm like, that's next week. So that's something for us to be aware of.
Exactly. Thank you, Vice Chair Otsuka. So I'm going to ask, maybe Director Sullivan, you can guide me. Can we table this conversation and have that align with our conversation that we're going to have further down the agenda about scheduling our next meeting?
Yes, the only note I want to make is actually the new sunshine requirement is 6 days and not 5, and it's 6 business days. So we would have had to agendize it yesterday by 9 a.m.
Okay. So I think we have our answer at this point then. Commissioners, we can review the draft letter that's presented, the draft comments that have been presented by Commissioner Otsuka and Marissa and Director Sullivan. If I may ask, would we as individual commissioners have an opportunity to submit separate comments to your office within this comment period of the 3rd as individual citizens, or have we lost our opportunity?
So I will say on behalf of CAP team, the public comment period is closed. I think that there is certainly an opportunity for both the commission and for individual commissioners to testify at council. The next opportunity for that is October 14th. And so that could be either written testimony or it could be in-person testimony at the hearing. And I would recommend that that be an option for consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Director Sullivan. So I think that is our answer. I would like us to submit the comments that we have now formally to the CAP team so that they can review it and incorporate it as see fit. And then we as a commission, we will prepare then to present any comment or testimony for the upcoming October 14th Energy, Environmental, and Sustainability Committee meeting. I think with our anticipated cadence for our next October meeting, we should be able to provide a comment letter collectively from the commission and still provide opportunity for the public to review. Does that approach sound good? Is everyone okay with that approach? Okay, great. So that said, I'm going to go back to the 2 documents that we have before you. We have this draft letter that you see before you. Are there any comments or revisions that we would like to make to this draft letter?
None from me, Chair.
Oh, okay. I was like, did we freeze? Okay. Yeah, none from me either.
Okay, great. Thank you. And are there any comments or revisions that we'd like to make to our detailed comment sheet?
Yeah, I don't think so. None for me on this, Chair. I just thank Vice Chair Otsuka for her time on this, and this is her realm more than mine, and her expertise on this. So thank you.
Great. Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Otsuka, for being an awesome commissioner and providing comments ahead of time. With that said, I would like to ask if we could make a motion to approve the letter from the Climate Change Commission to the CAP team on the draft 2025 to 2030 Climate Action Plan for the city. That will include our letter and an accompanied list of 13 detailed comments.
I make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Ma. Is there a second?
Second that.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Rye. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. I may have done this out of sequence and I apologize, but are there any comments from the public on our draft letter and or comments?
I think you asked, but I'll
Okay,
ask
yeah,
again. Yeah.
great. Seeing and hearing none, I think our motion carries. And so our letter to the CAP is approved. Director Sullivan and Maya, we will finalize this letter and get that to your team today. Thank you, commissioners. Okay, moving on. Our next item is taking action on our draft letter and comments to DOT's Energy Security and Waste Reduction Plan. I'm actually going to turn over to Vice Chair Osuka because this is very much in her realm and she actually helped to draft this letter. So Vice Chair Osuka, I'll share screen of the letter.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Sure.
And I can drive however you like me to drive through this letter.
Great. Yeah. So similar structure up front, introducing who the Climate Commission is and what we're charged with doing, and then letting HDOT know that we'd like to provide comments and letting them know that we're very supportive of their planning efforts. I then summarized, I know it's been a little bit since we've looked at this. I then summarized all of the comments we had in the longer comment sheet. So I divided it between revisions to existing strategies up top. And then the bottom half of the letter is what I'm calling missing strategies. And then all of our letters typically conclude with the commission is available to provide guidance on the latest science and information. I'm happy for us to go through the comments and rather than my little summarized versions of them, if that's easier for folks. So this is our comment sheet. We used the same process and had cross-collect comments prior to the board packet posting. So these were included in our board packet as well as the letter. And I organized them by page number and section. And I'd just like to ask the commissioners if there are any particular comments that they'd like to highlight, either for discussion or for awareness of the public. I have a couple, but I'll let you folks chime in first.
It's been some time, so I had to revisit what my comments were. I do apologize. I'll just briefly share. My comments really kind of centered around kind of more globally what DOT administration could do to decarbonize and reduce waste. So my comments really centered on frameworks for them to look at, particularly pointing to the LEED v5 framework because it focuses heavily on decarbonization and equity. And then the plan also talks about alternative fuel and different scales of transportation vehicles. And so I pointed out to some examples in Long Beach, California that look at trigen, hydrogen and fuel cells sort of scenarios from a port-based application. And then I also pointed to some pilot studies that are being done in California about reuse of energy battery storage systems as helping to assist with some microgrid stability. So those are kind of what my comments were centered around.
Commissioner Ma, you don't have to share, but if you'd like to, feel free.
Thank you, Commissioner Otsuka, for doing this incredible summary. It seems like a lot of work. I took a really quick look. The only thing that stood out to me that wasn't part of my comments were the reestablishing of the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force. I had worked on that task force when I was in government previously. And I don't know if there was a call to place it in a particular department. The original department that it was placed in had asked for the task force to be, I don't know, decommissioned or whatever, like to be repealed, to ask for the commission, the task force to be repealed. And so if it gets reestablished, it should probably be established elsewhere because the original location did not want it anymore.
Commissioner,
That's my only
can I ask
comment.
you to help me identify the comment number or what page
Oh.
it's on the letter, and we can all try to follow along with your comment?
It was in the letter is a carbon capture related comment.
Okay. Can you pull that
Yeah.
up, Melanie? Let's
And the
see.
carbon capture and storage, the commission supports the call to reestablish the GHG sequestration task force as its advice.
Right there, Melanie, at the bottom of this page you have, yeah.
Sorry.
So would you like for that to be revised?
Oh no, it's just a
Oh,
little
okay.
comment that I don't know if in the actual plan itself,
Mhm.
it called for it to be put back in its original office where it was, but that office does not want it.
Oh, I
So,
see.
so it should go to a different office.
Yeah. Got it.
So that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I have a question for Kirsten here, and it's not that urgent, so I'll leave that be. But Commissioner Remind, did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Vice Chair Otsuka, for putting this letter together. Just procedurally, this wasn't provided to us beforehand, right? I don't, did I miss that?
It was part of the board packet. So sorry, Commissioner Ma, please chime in. The 3-day requirement before the meeting when we're meant to upload board packet stuff. So the letter and then the comment sheet for both this and the cap were included. But I'm not sure if it was emailed. Are you asking if it was emailed to us?
That's what I was asking, but yeah, if it's elsewhere, then I
um,
missed it. Yeah.
I can clarify. So I
Yeah.
think it was done a little differently for this meeting. The agenda actually had hyperlinks in the agenda. So I think
Oh,
that's how it was transmitted.
okay.
In the past, I think it was transmitted as separate attachments. So that potentially could have been why it may have been missed.
Okay. My mistake.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to look out for those kind of links and stuff a little more carefully next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for the inclusion of my comments on this. I saw that when you're skimming through it, so thank you. Just one I wanted to emphasize, I think it relates to our climate and tourism document importantly, as well as it seemed to me that one of the missing aspects of this report was including strategies to reduce visitors' dependence on rental cars. There's just obviously mutual benefits, reducing traffic, vehicle miles traveled, and greenhouse gas emissions. I'm sure that's a very strong business sector that would push back against that, but it seems like a very important thing to discuss, and that aspect seemed to be lacking in the report from what I recall. Thank you. Thank you for including that in there.
I really like that comment, Brad. I didn't think about that. I think you listed it under an airport strategy, because we've invested and built this gigantic rental car and new parking lot, and we knew that rail was going to come very shortly. So it's a little bit conflicting, right, with sort of the broader carbon negative goal we have as a state, and then more recently the Navajine settlement, where this plan is the requirement for this plan originates. So. Thanks for thinking about that. And then I'll just quickly add some of the key things I put on our comment sheet. And I think we talked about this before. I think the plan could use greater discussion on what our electricity demand is going to look like if we are trying to get everybody who currently drives electric or drives a ICE, a gas vehicle, to an electric vehicle. The Hawaiian Electric's Electrification and Transportation Report puts it at a 33% increase in electricity demand, and whether we have the grid capacity to support that, and if we truly want to be carbon net negative, the origins of our energy should also be clean. So I think that could be a better discussion on land use implications for demand for more renewable energy projects, and then what the electricity demand looks like. And just my usual soapbox of wanting us to focus more on improving transportation choices rather than electrification. There's a huge financial commitment in the lawsuit for the state to spend a certain amount of money on EV infrastructure, but there isn't that sort of same commitment for walk, bike, transit infrastructure and services. So those are my two key comments from here. Yeah, with that, I'll ask if there are any comments from the public on either the letter, summarizing the comments, as well as the comment sheet. And Marissa, can I start with I'm not Marissa, I'm sorry. Maya, can I start with the room? Is there any comments in the room? Okay, none. And then I'll open it up to the virtual room. Does anybody in the virtual room have any comments on the comment sheet or the letter? If you do, please raise your hand and introduce yourself. Okay, seeing none, Chair, I'll hand it back over to you for requested action.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Otsuka. Thank you, commissioners, for your comments to the draft plan. I think we're ready to take action. So could I get a motion to approve the draft letter and comments, detailed comments to DOT's energy and waste reduction plan?
I move to approve the letter and the comments from the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Rai. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Mall. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Motion carries. Our comments to the DOT Energy Waste Reduction Plan are approved. Director Sullivan, we will again finalize the letter and get that over to your team. Actually, not to your team. We will finalize the letter, and then I believe we are able to transmit it directly to DOT. So we will just include you as a copy, so you have that for record. Thank you so much, everyone. This was good. I think the more we do this, the better we get, the more efficient we get on this process. So
And better with sunshine law.
and yes, better with sunshine law. Great. So this now brings us to agenda item number 8. Insights from the 2025 Hawaii Congress of Planning Officials HCPO Conference. Commissioner Roman, I understand you and Commissioner Olson attended the conference. And just as really kind of a prep, I think, for some of our upcoming meetings, I thought it might just be nice to share any insights that you had gathered from this conference with the commission and the public.
Sure, Chair. Yeah, I'll try to make this brief, but happy to share some of my takeaways from the HCPO conference. I imagine each of you have had opportunity to attend this conference in past years. But for folks online or folks that aren't familiar with this, is the Hawaii Congress of Planning Officials Conference was held this year. It's an annual conference in Honolulu and Waikiki this year. And they rotate around the counties. Next year, I believe Maui will be hosting. This was August 27 to 29 in Waikiki. The theme of the conference this year was Resilient by Design. There was a series of tours that were offered day one. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to join any of those, but they look great around complete streets, waste management, a visit to the He'eia National Estuarine Research Reserve, one on agribusiness, one on stream restoration and flood mitigation, and then one in Waikiki on coastal hazards and adaptation. So this sounded great. Wish I could have joined one. I did attend the conference sessions though, and yeah, overall, this is a great opportunity to interact, network with our government and private sector planning community. So I really, really appreciate that opportunity every time through this conference. Also, for me, really an excellent reminder of the myriad priorities that our government officials are dealing with, are navigating. you know, I think it's an important thing for us to continue to keep in mind. You know, we're focused on the climate action, mitigation, adaptation priorities, but there's so much that that our elected and other government civil service officials are trying to balance and address for our community. So a good reminder, just civics lesson for me in that. There was 5 program tracks. I primarily attended the ones on addressing climate readiness and aligning resilience with natural and built environments. There was also one on wayfinding to housing and communities for all, improving governments and civic structure, and redesigning systems for a changing Hawaii. So as always, you never get to go to everything you want to in these breakout tracks, but I attended one on navigating rising tides. We heard updates on the sea level rise science from Chip Fletcher and his team, groundwater drainage failure and compounded sea level rise and rainfall flooding. One of the key, really cool things I saw in that session, again on navigating rising tides, was from Honolulu Harbors. Was about Honolulu Harbor from Hawaii Department of Transportation Harbors Division. They've developed or are developing a digital twin for Honolulu Harbor. So I know there's been maybe some discussion about doing something similar for portions of the urban core in Waikiki. So it was really interesting, insightful to see how that kind of modeling works and the potential for research and planning around things like that. I also attended a session on pathways to resilience. We heard examples about adaptation pathway planning around coastal hazards and sea level rise adaptation, an area that I've become more familiar with and involved in some state legislation around that. This is adaptation planning that involves various thresholds and triggers to implement various stages of adaptation. And that was around the coastal realm. We also heard an example of flexible adaptation pathway planning for urban heat, something that I have not seen before. So that was very interesting to learn about. I heard it was a refresher. It was good time, well timed for me on One Water Honolulu. I'll kind of breeze over that because it sounds like we may have an opportunity for an update on that coming up at the commission. We did have a session that I facilitated on the Pili Namoku project around aligning holistic environmental stewardship, community resilience, and disaster risk reduction. Again, we're really focused largely on Waianae here on Oahu for that project that I'm helping to coordinate through Sea Grant, and with about a dozen local government and community partners on that. One of the highlights always for me in this conference is the county planning directors panel. They do this in plenary. It was the second morning of the in-person conference. It was really interesting to hear. One of my key takeaways was they all agreed, all the planning directors, that housing is the #1 challenge that they're facing in their counties. And just an important reminder for me, and I think for us, about the intersection of climate adaptation and housing and cost of living for us. We just really keep that in mind in our recommendations, that we're not negatively affecting that aspect. It's something we're all facing as residents here too. Hits home literally for me, but we really need to focus on mutual benefits and as always being just and equitable in our recommendations. What else? I attended another session on data-driven resilience, transforming Hawaii's travel and transportation. Kiana, I think you were supposed to be in that one and we're ill, maybe. I was bummed not to see you there, but it was still a very interesting session in your absence. Really very data-driven presentations on solutions to addressing local travel and transportation challenges. And I think, yeah, oh yeah, thanks Kiana for putting that link in there. There's a lot of data that may be informative I mean, you're already familiar with most or all of it, Kiana, to our tourism and climate change guidance. And then the last session I attended was Hawaii's updated energy strategy. Excellent presentation from Monique Zamphis. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. Yeah, seeing the parallel and coordinated efforts going out at the state around clean energy goals. and yeah, some sobering realities of the challenges to meet those goals. But it was great to hear some updates and really dig into the details from the state level, like we heard earlier from the county level from Poliahu and team. Yeah, I'll stop there. Those are my takeaways. Always, worth the time and a great conference if you can make it next year.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Romine. Excellent summary. I'll just tag on. I like the concept of a digital twin. So if there are ways for us to collaboratively put one together for Honolulu, I think it might be a good way to test out some ideas and solutions. So, but commissioners, any thoughts to what Commissioner Romine shared? Commissioner Vice Chair Osuka.
Just quickly, Commissioner Romine, if you think any of the presentations you went to would be useful and relevant for the commission meetings, please get in touch with Chair Islam and we can try to coordinate that. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Ma.
Chair, thank you, Commissioner Romine, for that really interesting report out. Any information about the new Green Commission? What is it? Governor Green's Green Fee Commission? I'm sorry, I think I'm butchering whatever that's called.
I think there might have been a session on that. It is at the same time as our Pili Namoku session. Not 100% on that, but
No, just curious.
yeah, might have to ask others that attended because I didn't get to hear any discussion on that if there was.
Well, thank you for that. If they would be interested in talking to this commission to see what they're doing, I think that would be kind of interesting. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Ma. That's actually on our agenda, future agenda items. So excellent alignment. Awesome. Public, any comments or thoughts to what Commissioner Romine shared about HCPO? Okay, hearing none, I am going to thank you again, Commissioner Romine, for sharing. Move on to agenda item number 9, which is discussion of our in-person planning workshop and date. So we had polled with you some dates in December, and what trickled to the top was December 4th and 5th. The intention of this in-person planning meeting is really to kind of plan out from a topical standpoint what 2026 looks like for us, but also to better share our areas of expertise and where we can find shared alignment and opportunities of, expanding what guidance looks like coming out of the commission. So with the dates of December 4th and 5th, I anticipate this being a 3-hour meeting. Are there any preferences on the day and or the time? Commissioner Vice Chair Osuka.
Oh, I just had a meeting scheduled on the 5th, so now my preference, like an all-day meeting, if can. The 4th would be better for me.
And then I'll just share the 4th is a Thursday.
Can I
Sorry, this is
clarify
oh, go
something?
ahead, Sandy. My apologies. Go.
Oh, sorry, Brad, real quick. The options for the group would be 9 to 12 and 1 to 4. Is that right? Just so everybody's
Yes,
clear on what the
yes.
availability is. Okay.
Yeah, thank you,
Sorry,
Kiana.
Brad.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and what were the dates then again?
Right now it's December 4th.
December 4th.
I would like all commissioners to be there. I think that's why we keep pushing it out. I think there's value in having us all in one space. So if your schedule allows for December 4th, we are now looking at a morning and afternoon slot. Based on the timing, then we'll confirm the location.
I can be available December 4th. Afternoon would be preferable if possible, but I can make either happen.
Commissioner Ma, do you have a preference?
December 4th is better for me.
Okay.
So I could do the 4th. I could do the afternoon.
You can do the afternoon. All right. I blocked out both days, so I can do both of it. So we're gonna schedule the in-person planning meeting for December 4th from 1 to 4 p.m. Location to be determined. I am going to cross my fingers and hope that Commissioner Olson is also available during that time. Vice Chair Otsuka.
I was just about to ask, so Commissioner Olson confirmed in the poll at the time, December 4, 1 to 4 p.m. is okay?
Well, she did at the time.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, great, thank you.
So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping she's available. Awesome. Okay, great. More information to come to the commission, but I will work with the office and get a location scheduled for that. Great. Is there any comments from the public about our upcoming intent to meet in person? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to our next item, which is item 10, discussion on tentative next meeting dates. So again, a poll was sent out for our October and November dates. And what bubbled to the top was October 9th and November 13th. Do those dates still work for individuals? This would be a morning meeting, our typical 9 to 11.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the date one more time?
Yes, October 9th and November 13th.
And both 9 to 12, right?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I was just typing it in the chat.
9 to 11, I'm sorry, 2 hour.
I'm sorry, 9 to
2 hour slot.
11.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
If these dates do not work, we can issue out another poll, or we could, we'll probably issue out another poll at this time, given just where we are close to the next hour. Commissioner Long?
For me, October 9th, I am scheduled to be out of town.
Okay.
On October 9th, and for November 13th, I have a hearing in the morning.
Got it.
It may be canceled. I don't know. But I won't know until close to the date.
Of course, that makes sense. Commissioner Romine, do these dates still work for you?
Oh, I have commitments both of those mornings now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
For the
We're gonna send out
1 to 4 on either of those days, or do we just poll mornings?
We polled both times and then the
Okay.
morning trickled up when we polled. So I think at this point, I will issue out another poll to the commissioners. And if we could find a time, I just want to note one thing, and we've discussed this earlier, our opportunity to provide comments to the CAP, right? The next committee meeting is scheduled for October 14th. So if the commission would like to provide comments, we would actually need to find a time within the first half of October to have a commission meeting to review those comments. So if we are still in support of that, perhaps for just October, we could briefly look at our calendars right now for a minute and then see if there are some dates that would work ideally in that week, the week of October 9th, because that gives us enough time to finalize comments and transmit them to City Council. Vice Chair Otsuka.
I'll just note, if you want to do another short one like we did for our other comments, I can't remember which one, we could do an hour. So folks have an hour. That's also an option. The other thing I'll note for scheduling purposes is that the soonest we can have a meeting, if we agendize today, is now October 6th. Is that right? I think if I'm
It's
just
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
right?
6. Yep.
Yeah.
October 6th would be the soonest.
So I guess maybe look at the week of October 6th, if possible, for the group. For an hour, ideally 2 hours, I guess. But hour minimum, maybe.
Director Sullivan.
I think a stringent interpretation of the law is actually 6 days to the time. It's not just 6 days nominally. So
Got
we
it.
would not, so like, we'd have to have a meeting after, and that doesn't leave us any time to even put together an agenda. So I would suggest
The 7th
uh,
is the
The 7th?
earliest.
the 7th
Okay.
is the absolute earliest. And I think it's also going to be challenging to do that because we do have tasks that have to stack up any information that we have to get out. So it's a challenge. And then I do want to be fully transparent. One more item, the city council's consideration, basically what we have been asked by the committee chair to give an informational briefing on the 14th, but that's not agendized until a week before, and so things could change. I just, this is the nature of these processes, but I just want to make sure everyone understands that so that you don't have an expectation and then something changes in their calendar, which we don't control.
Yes, thank you for reminding us on that. I assume there will be 3 hearings for the CAP, right? So there will be other opportunity if we cannot
This
finalize.
this is just a request for an informational briefing, so it's not an introduction of the final plan. The final plan will still be under preparation and review internally. But the committee chair did ask for an update on the process, so the team is working on that now, and it will likely be a little bit further than what they just presented to you in terms of status and process. But it's not going to be an official meeting as part of the adoption process, which is by resolution and requires 2 meetings.
Yeah. Okay. With that said, I don't want to force us because on time. I will send out a doodle poll for October and November. I'll try and do it for the Fridays because I know that's typically when we have our meetings, and I assume we have kind of general holds in the morning half. And hopefully something aligns when majority of us can meet. So I think that's good for this particular agenda item. So if it's okay, I would like to move on to agenda item number 11. Great. So agenda item number 11 is communications and correspondence from the public. We have received correspondence from Dr. Tom Keeney in response to our current in progress climate change and tourism paper. I understand that Dr. Keeney is in person in our meeting room. Is that correct, Maya?
He's not. Maya
He's
just
not.
messaged me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. He's not. Okay, so I will pull up his letter. I don't know if this letter was transmitted to all of the commissioners, so I am just going to share my screen at this point so we can all read the letter. Great. Should I read it out loud? You got the protocol. It's been some time. I'll just read it out loud. Okay. So it says, Dear Chair Islam, I have been interested and engaged with your progress towards creation of a tourism and climate change guidance document over the past 2 years. I have submitted testimony at 2 or more of your meetings reflecting my past interests and my research into the global warming emissions resulting from air transport of visitors to Hawaii. The conclusions of my research reflected in several written testimonies which I have submitted were more fully developed then and in some respects at odds with the initial draft document produced by your commission about 2 years ago. With submission of my most recent testimony 6 months ago, I was told that I would be included among the stakeholders in the process of creating a final guidance document. In watching the video of last month's meeting, I did not see my name listed as stakeholder. I would like to be included in that list. I believe that it is important that the positions which I have presented regarding the overall warming effect of aviation emissions, which includes the very significant non-CO2 emissions, must be considered in determining the effects of tourism to Hawaii, the world's most distant visitor destination, from any continental land mass on climate change and our societal responsibility arising from that impact. Please include my name in a revised stakeholder list for the comments on the tourism and climate change guidance document. Mahalo, Tonkini, MD. So he shared these comments with us. We received them ahead of the meeting. Vice Chair Osuga, you have been guiding this guidance document. So I believe Dr. Keeney will listen to this recording. If you could perhaps respond to his testimony, that would be great.
Sure, yeah. So we have not, or we're not in the point, we have pushed our schedule out quite a bit, given that both Commissioner Olson and I are sort of getting acquainted with the document and are making our own internal revisions before we put it out for stakeholder engagement. We had initially made the decision to only include organizations in our stakeholder list and not individuals, but we're happy to include Dr. Keeney on our list of stakeholders. And so what the list of stakeholders will receive is an email from Dr. Olson and I when we're ready to solicit stakeholder feedback. We're hoping that will occur towards the end of this year, most likely with a survey for you to provide feedback on the guidance document. And then both Commissioner Olson and I will review the feedback we received from the stakeholders, and then we'll incorporate as we see appropriate. So we're happy to include Dr. Keeney, but I also wanted to open it up to the other commissioners for feedback. So we'll be sort of making an exception and including Dr. Keeney as an individual rather than an organization. So I'll open it up to you folks if you have any feedback, but I'm happy to include him if we as a group think that's appropriate.
Commissioners, thoughts?
I'll also add, because I think Dr. Keeney probably watched the recording, that Dr. Keeney, as well as anybody in the public, is also welcome to comment on the guidance document at any of our public meetings. So our plan is to give a presentation in a couple of months with our internal revisions for feedback from the commissioners, but also the public. We'll then do formal stakeholder engagement, and then we'll have the guidance document up for a vote again at a public meeting, our commission meeting, for further feedback and testimony. So there are a couple of options. We do have Dr. Keeney's testimony from previous meetings, and I'll just mention that Dr. Olson has worked really hard with one of her graduate student researchers to revise the aviation emissions section. We're just not ready to formally present yet. We're still making a couple more revisions, waiting for some feedback from some partners. So those are kind of the two options for public engagement and feedback. One, the commission meetings, and then two, getting an email to respond to a survey that Kirsten and I, or Dr. Olson and I, will respond to. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ma?
Thank you. And I understand Director Sullivan also had a question. So we're gonna acknowledge organizations as stakeholders and individuals. What about individuals within organizations? Can they be double recognized? Like if I was like president of, ABC Green Company, can I have my green company and then me individually as president of my company? Like,
yeah. I'm sorry, Commissioner, go ahead. Yeah.
No, would it just be one or the other?
I think it could be both, but I think our intention was the formal stakeholder engagement, meaning they get the survey, was just organizations, but it could certainly be both. I think that's the question I'm posing to you folks. Like, do we want to open our stakeholder engagement lists to individuals and not just organizations?
Okay.
Does that help with clarifying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just wondering, like, do we draw the line somewhere? like all of the employees, that's.
Yeah, that's the question I'm posing to you folks.
Okay.
The line gets blurry.
Yeah.
And certainly, if you want to bring this back to discussion as an agenda item, I can bring and put in the board packet the lists that we discussed 2 months ago now, I think, if you want to have further discussion, but I think specifically on Dr. Keeney's testimony, whether you folks would like to include Dr. Keeney as an individual yeah, to your point, kind of a blurry space, but what would you folks like to do? Or if you have any specific feedback, that would be helpful for Commissioner Olson and I.
I'll defer to Director Sullivan first because he had his hand up, and then for some thoughts.
I just wanted to really quickly say, obviously, this commission takes all public testimony very seriously, and this individual has been very persistent in providing that, and so it's very welcome and appreciated. That said, I think you heard, just from the standpoint of your making recommendations to the city, I think you heard from the team on that particular discussion as an example about harbors and heavy-duty vehicles, and us looking closely at things that are within our jurisdiction. So obviously, we work to bring tourists to Hawaii, and as much as that is the case, then these comments are relevant. But we do not work in the technical side of aviation in terms of how planes are dispatched and how they're fueled and all those kind of things. And so I just want to just share that in terms of what's most relevant to us, and perhaps that helps in terms of how you inform your paper. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Director Sullivan. Vice Chair Osuka, I think it was great that you outlined how we, obtain comments right from the public, right? And we have made an effort to have more engagement with our stakeholder meetings. I don't have a firm position. I think he could go either way. He could be included in the stakeholder list, or we could find have him comment when we present our draft. Given that you two are the two commissioners leading the paper, I think you should determine what's most appropriate.
Okay. Yeah.
Based on the content development. But I would like us to respond back to Dr. Keeney.
Sure.
In an appropriate manner. So he knows at least the cadence of his opportunities to provide testimony. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. So if there's no opposition, I will include Dr. Keeney in our stakeholder list, meaning Dr. Keeney will receive an email from Commissioner Olson and I with a link to a survey, most likely, I think is what we had outlined as our plan, asking for formal feedback. And Dr. Keeney will have an opportunity to respond to the survey, and then we'll review. I've reviewed his testimony multiple times since I've been on the commission, so I'm sure it'll be quite similar, but we'll review it again and make sure that we're reviewing his comments appropriately. And then also, I would like Dr. Keeney to also review the revised aviation section, and he may or may not have additional questions or additional comments, but I just wanted to note that we did make substantial changes to the aviation section. So to hopefully address some of the comments, but I'm happy to include him. So I'll include him, Chair. And then if you would like to respond to him, letting him know that, or you want me to help respond to him, I'm happy to do that.
That sounds great. Thank you, Vice Chair Osuka. We can work on sending him an email through our CC at honolulu.gov. Excellent. Any other thoughts, commissioners? If not, I would like to move on to items 12, 13, and then 14. Great. Item 12 is public input for matters not on the agenda. I know we are past the hour, so for those that are there, are there any items that or matters that we have not agendized that you'd like to bring up? Maya says we have none. Seeing no hands in our virtual room, I think we're good. We're going to move on to agenda item number 13. Any announcements? I will just share that, we are working to close out the year, but if there are topics that you think are important for us to discuss before we close for 2025, please do send it to me and Vice Chair Osuka, actually just to me for Sunshine, and then we'll look at how we can get that agendized on topic. Vice Chair Osuka.
Yeah, I had 3 relatively quick announcements, and I'm popping some links in the chat for reference if folks want more information. The first is next week, my office is hosting Week Without Driving. So this is a national effort, and our office is hosting the Oahu efforts. So the idea is for you to experience what it's like to not drive for a week, because most Americans drive pretty regularly, and to like help us document what are some of your trials and tribulations, also like what went really well. And the idea is to get you to be more politically active and tell your city council people and your legislators like, hey, I tried this and it was really challenging, or it was really great, whatever you want to share. So there's a link in the chat to sign up and for more information. And also, we're having gelato in the park on Wednesday, so folks are welcome to join. You'll meet other participants in Week Without Driving. So that was in the my first announcement. My second announcement is the Department of Planning and Permitting has put out their North Shore Sustainable Communities Plan out for public comment, something maybe the commission wants to comment on also. So the link to the public review draft is in the chat. Comments are due November 14th. And my last announcement is another opportunity for public comment. Potentially the commission also is the City Charter Commission is accepting proposals for city charter amendments. So this is a once in 10-year opportunity to sort of guide how the city operates and its processes. So proposals are due November 7th. There's also a link here for more information as well as how to submit proposals. So I'm not an expert in any of these, maybe a little bit of Week Without Driving, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions or try to provide more information on any of the 3 announcements. That's all. Thank you.
It's great, Commissioner Otsuka. I was just reminded last night that the North Shore Plan is out for comment. So commissioners, if there is interest to provide a comment, again, just send a note to me and then we can look into opportunities to agendize this. Any other announcements from commissioners? Commissioner Romine.
Thank you. I continue to serve as the coordinator for the Hawaii State Sea Level Rise Viewer. And as I think you know, that's a collaborative effort between the Pacific Islands Ocean Observing System, the Coastal Research Collaborative at UH, DLNR, State Climate Commission. I don't want to forget anybody, State Office of Planning. The message, we've made some updates, latest rounds of updates to the State Sea Level Rise Viewer. And a couple key aspects that we've updated is we've added additional passive high tide flooding layers to the exposure layers. These come from NOAA to supplement the sea level rise exposure area, or SLREXA, that only goes up to 3.2 feet. We've added 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 feet as additional hazards assessment layers to support exposure assessment beyond that 3.2 feet. We've also added some social indicators layers from the State Office of Planning to that. Those changes, and we've also updated some of the text that's below the viewer around sea level rise guidance, and just making some of the information a little more digestible for our wide range of users. It includes residents, real estate agents, planners, among others in there. So we're trying to make it as usable as possible for everybody. Those just went live yesterday. We intend to make some broader announcements on that, including possibly a press release on that. But since I had the opportunity here, I thought I'd mention it. Go in there and check it out if you want. We will also be informing the counties. I think we got to figure out exactly how to do that, but I think particularly the planning departments in each of the counties will want to know this. So I will put the link to the viewer in there again for everybody.
Excellent.
And oh, sorry, I continue to serve, as I mentioned, I am primary contact for that, even though it's a big cooperative of folks. If folks have questions following this meeting, looking at it, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
It was excellent, Commissioner Romine. We may ask you to share this at a formal commission meeting, so in the future. Great. With that said, I think we are good on announcements. Great. With that said, I'm going to call this meeting to adjourn. It's now 11:05 on September 26th. Thank you so much, Commissioners, public, Director Sullivan, for hanging out a few more minutes with us. We look forward to convening with everyone in October and November. Have a fun weekend.
Thank you, Chair.
Aye.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, CCSR.